Last time on Ral of the Sky Mountain People. Ral finds himself in an ever-spiraling plethora of circumstances from the moment that Usara shared his mind to reveal a dark figure that caused the mythical Guardian's undoing. After telling his story to his best friend Danton, and then the village of the Lost Mind's eldest, Ral realizes he is on the cusp of being forced into a destiny not of his own desire. Eldest, Yerwin Loggins, who seems to have an axe to grind against Ral, has spoken with Ral's father, explaining the soon-to-be man will join the group of selectees to go aid in defense against the king's men. Meanwhile, Ral's father is to plead for a peace deal with the Sky City Council in an effort to halt the king's men from advancing upon the Sky Mountain People. Ral and his father erupt into a serious fight, and the events goad Ral into running away from Lost Mine. He makes a pit stop at Danton's house for one last goodbye, and to ask for supplies. Ral finds himself deep in the woods on his way to the Trillian foothills, making sure not to cross paths with the selectees, likely on the lookout for him, as well as ensuring he doesn't venture too far down the mountain to the west, in fear of intersecting with the dark figure. Ral knows the songs, he knows the stories, and has decided he wants nothing to do with traditional village life. In the moment the decision was made, he is positive it was the right decision made at the right time. It is unlike him to lose track of time, yet here he is on another mostly sunny day, thanking the blessing from Father Sky for such consistent, pleasant weather, as he makes his way down the mountain slopes to the Trillian foothills. The number of the days doesn't matter. The forest is still thick as ever, and Ral is finally starting to thrive alone in his element. Occasionally a chipmunk calls out. Ral has convinced himself the little red and white striped furball with its golden underbelly is speaking to him directly. He side-eyes the little creature while stepping over a fallen log. Nestled in between the deep grooves of the log's bark are some tree nuts, likely no good for a man to eat. But Ral knows the chipmunks won't fuss over such a thing. He pitches it up in the air to the direction of the chattering furball. To no surprise, the nut whizzes by the chipmunk. It bounds off the branch after the tree nut, chattering with glee all the way. I bet you like all those, huh? Going to get you nice and fat before winter comes, sure, says Ral to his new traveling companion. He fancies how neat it would be if the little rodent could actually catch a tree nut that Ral tosses to it. Perhaps something he will practice while they interact together on the way to the Chilean foothills. I can also bet you won't follow me all the way, will you, friend? Nay, I wouldn't go to the foothills either. Not there. Ral pauses to watch the chipmunk from behind him scurry up a tree to a height about twice Ral's, and it chatters back as if responding to Ral, perhaps for another snack. Right. Here you go, of course. Though, I am going there, am I not? He pauses again, and the two repeat their new ritual. Did you know it's a famous place? A huge battle took place among the early peoples before my great ancestors seeked the protection of Father Sky in the highest mountains. They wrote songs about it. The furball replies with another chattering call, although the little thing is looking away from Ral this time, sounding off into the depths of the woods on the slopes below them. Koltath said on a perfect night, when the moon is right, you can still hear the echoes of the battle at dawn. If you listen closely in a valley of open thicket between the clumps of forest. But, I don't know. He says a lot of things. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes scary true, says Ral out loud in the audience of the forest. For a moment, he feels emptiness. That queer sense of loneliness when realizing you may be the only breathing person for a great distance, alone in the woods. Then, after a short absence, his little furball is overhead, again chattering a call that Ral is certain means, another nut, please. So Ral tosses another up to the branches. He swears the little thing catches the nut. A deep rumble, almost more of a sensation than anything audible, disturbs the peacefulness of the forest. The chipmunk senses it too. Losing all interest in Ral and tree nuts, he spins in a defensive posture on the tree branch above, making guttural noises Ral hasn't heard before. Ral, noting the bluish sky above the canopy beyond his postulating companion, also murmurs, Sky's wrath. That can't be thunder. But could it? Perhaps a thunderhead looming beyond the views of the mountains? Bird songs filled a short period of silence after the ominous rumblings. Ral and the chipmunk had stood still in their own places for some time, as if life in the woods appeared to return to normal. That was the way thunderheads tend to roll in, unexpectedly. One moment it can be a peaceful day, the next, Sky's wrath is upon the unsuspecting wanderer, and in all-out deluge and urgency to seek shelter becomes a grave reality of near life or death circumstance. With heightened senses, Ral begins to look up his pathway again, seeking how the game trails interconnect through the vegetation. Working his way through the brush has been tiring at times. Once in a while, he flirts with the idea of taking the easy route so that he could more leisurely stretch out his gait and make the walk easier by using the main pathway through the woods. The thought of being seen on the main path, though, still worried him the most. He actually had put a fair amount of distance between him and it, favoring the downside of the mountain. That's when something caught his concern once again. "By Sky, what is that?" he questioned aloud, almost unconsciously. Posing his question to the chipmunk, he spun around looking for his companion, and to his dismay, the creature had possibly moved on. Ral looked back at what had alarmed him. Just down the slope to his left appears to be an area of disturbed woods. Ral thinks, is this the corruption the eldest spoke of? In a sharp contrast to the lush, vibrant green hues of the thriving mountain forest was a darkened area, like a blackened hollow. It feels like a secret hideaway where abominations take refuge, waiting for the cover of night to venture out and unleash their evil doings. Branches hung barren, some broken close to the main trunk. The smaller vegetation is wilting, some falling to the ground before Ral's eyes. Where flowers were likely growing on some of the bushes, only a greasy purple glow now emanates from the underside of sickly leaves. Ral realizes the gravity of the situation and remains frozen. This wasn't a few blades of grass being bent over by careless passerby, nor was it a bush facing its demise after it had all its fruits devoured by a scavenger. Nor was it like a single sapling giving up on its fight to reach the canopy for sunlight, with its leaves wilting, turning brown, and allowing itself to die completely. No. An entire small habitat deep in the forest had become tainted. Even the smell of the decay is putrefying and invasive to Ral's nostrils. The scent has alerted something primal inside of Ral, foreboding him to flee, to get away before death's bony grip reaches outward to drag him into the abomination within this dark place. He dares not approach any further. Quickly he scans the area all around him. His companion Furball appears to have abandoned him. It too likely sensed the warning to escape this place of death. Ral feels a terror building in his stomach, and the urging to move onward is too much to take. Hurriedly, he begins to walk parallel to the nasty place to his left, wedged between the dangers on the high road to his right and the uncertain doom and emptiness of the dark corruption below. Ral makes his way as quickly and assuredly as he can. He makes his way, the eerie ringing of silence in his ears fades slowly, replaced by songs of birds again. His thoughts bounce from the chipmunk, back to the dark place, and back to his purpose in a ruminating fashion. Every time his mind's eye tries to fixate on the dead spot in the forest, he urges his thoughts back to the chipmunk. It is sad, all of it. The notion of the corrupted woods, a place of the dead, and then the melancholy feeling that his furball friend would likely never be seen again. The final touch of sorrow came from the uncertainty of what exactly he was doing in these woods, wandering away from the only familiarity he knew, the only home he knew, his only friend, Danton. The day was beginning to become more queer as daylight passed. Ral could tell it is already well past midday. Looking behind him once in a while, he wants to be sure that what was a fixed place should be and wasn't coming after him. He felt juvenile looking over his shoulder, so, like a child fearing the monster is going to chase him into his bed. Another rumble to his right. He darts his eyes hurriedly up to the mountain slopes. He cannot see anything in this vegetation. Senses on high alert, uneasiness, visions of the dark place. I am losing my mind. I need to get control of myself, he thinks to himself, staring up into the woods, discerning the sky beyond the canopy from dusk, periwinkle blue and grays and what might be clouds. It seems impossible. Ral questions his senses, searches deep for that internal prehistoric guide to tell him the answer to what he's experiencing. Another rumble. This time he feels the ground beneath his feet actually vibrate deep and low. Somewhere in the distance, a rock separates itself from a cliff. Ral can hear the echoes of its departure and the punishment it places on the trees and vegetation. He scans looking for the cliff or rock structure that is at the source of the sound. Above him, the slope past is likely the main road where it seems it meets a jutting formation of unmovable stone. The large outcrop of rock just beyond forms a dark outline beyond the trees between him and it. He knew the shape must be massive, for between him and it was the main road, and then closer, the Kwai River, and he had but some considerable distance between himself and the river in the distance the last couple days, making the main road and this looming object further beyond quite a distance away, a testament to its sheer size. A strange thought fills Ral's mind, that the shape of the giant stone deep in the woods, looming above and beyond, was like that of Old Mother. It surprised him to think of the turtle from Kolta's stories yet again during this trip. Rarely was he one to think about the childhood stories. Some he quite enjoyed, but stories they were, and Ral always thought of himself as a practical person, bound by the facts of nature rather than the mystique of fantasy. Perhaps it was his run-in with the Ursara and all that was changing for him now that had opened his mind up a little. More rumbles. He hears more rocks thunder in the wake of the rumble, the rumblings lasting longer, large trees groaning. Ral hears one blister and crackle not too far off. The sound of it separating from its anchor on the ground and cracking and shatters of other unfortunate trees caught in its path as it falls down the mountainside. Wide-eyed, frantic, instincts kicking in, Ral scrambles to find shelter. A massive stone jutting out from the mountain slope at an angle that may provide overhead protection seems to be a logical place to Ral. Beneath the outcrop is a bed of needles and small forest debris. A massive ancient oak twists its way outward, providing a natural wall to perceived shelter. Opposite the gargantuan tree is a copse of small-leafed bushes. "Thank the sky for this blessing," Ral says aloud, looking upward for a split second to the sky above the canopy. It is growing dark. He hunkers down under the stone slab. The rumbling continues. The forest groans. More things shatter in the distance. Ral hugs his knees as he sits in his newfound shelter. The slab seems secure. Nothing appears brittle or in danger of falling on him. The old oak had long since purged any remaining limbs that were not a part of its long-term growing plan. He felt safe, but the broken rhythm of rumbles continued. The darkness of night was coming with its own uncertainties after such a strange day. More rumbles, the ground quaking. It sounds like a giant is walking through the woods, destroying everything in its path. It sounds like a massive turtle? The thought dug hard at Ral's inner disbelief. A massive turtle? This has been the reading of Ral of the Sky Mountain People, Chapter 6, by James A. Greig. Thank you.